Higgins Clark is our guest today, and thank you for being with us here on Bookmark.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you always.
I read something at the beginning of this book that made me like you just a little bit more. And that is, you talk about how this book was not easy for you to write.
They're never easy to write.
Really? Mary Higgins Clark can struggle, can have a hard time?
I threw out the first 4 months. I was going at it from the wrong angle. It's just not that easy.
It's not easy.
No, it gets easy after page 50, because by then you know the characters, and they will walk out of a scene that I plan to keep them in, and I'll say, well, wait a minute, you're supposed to say this, and he says, oh no, give that line to him, that's not the way I would talk. That's when writing is fun. Then it's exciting.
You also explain in this book, in the beginning of The Lost Years, that you have this editor, is it Michael Korda?
Michael Korda.
Okay, so he comes to you and goes, have I got an idea for you? And he throws something crazy at you, like make a suspense romance thriller out of the idea that Jesus Christ might have written a letter.
Yeah, he said, I would like it if this book had a biblical background. Let's say Christ wrote a letter to someone and it has shown up now.
And he says that to you. Do you say, check, please?
I said, Michael, that's absolutely crazy. It could be considered irreverent, sacrilegious, to set a letter written by Christ against the background of a murder.
Right.
But I kept going back to it and back to it and back to it. And I thought, we know Christ was an educated Jewish boy. And at 12, he was preaching in the temple, and they were awed by his knowledge of the scriptures. And I thought, who would he write to? Well, in the Palm Sunday Gospel, one of the Gospels is about Joseph of Arimathea, a secret disciple of Christ, who had the courage to go to Pontius Pilate and ask for the body of the crucified Christ to lay in his own tomb. And I thought he had been a secret disciple for many years.
That's your letter.
And there's my letter. And I don't quote it, but it's simply a letter thanking Joseph for all the kindness he had extended.
Yeah, and I think you really do it with great respect. And the majority of the story actually is taking place in modern times with some very modern themes. You have a character in there, a woman who is dealing with Alzheimer's and the family issues that go along with that. What made you want to write about that?
Well, because a very good friend of mine, I used to travel with her when we were both widows, and she was more fun, and now she has Alzheimer's. And to see this vital, fun person playing with dolls is...
To slip away.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
It is very, very sad. And of course, it's not easy for the family. I think no matter how you treat it, whether it's a nursing home or whether it's home care, it still is heartbreaking.
Well, and you deal with it in an interesting way in this book. You say that the couple, her husband, that they had this great love affair, and you make that very clear. But he now in the book, he becomes a murder victim. He has a girlfriend, and that brings up the whole issue of what is the caregiver, and how do you move on after, and when is it appropriate to move on?
And exactly.
These are all very real life issues.
The issues are good. And then in Daddy's Gone A-Hunting, I did something different. I have a young woman accused of blowing up the family business, because she had said...
Literally blowing up, like with an explosive?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's found there at 4 in the morning, and she just gets out and drags the craftsman who used to work for them out, but he's dead. And she is in a coma and coming in and out. You see one page with her, and she keeps trying to remember the dream. She's 3 years old.
What happened?
There's being 3 years old and running in a flowered nightgown down the hall, trying to get away, and then hands. And while she's in the coma, she remembers the rest of the dream.
Oh my goodness.
And she's in danger.
You see, you're already giving me bad dreams. Where does that idea come from?
Well, here again in this book, I like social issues.
Right.
And I have a Vietnam vet who walked out on his wife and baby. And he's homeless and has been for nearly 40 years. And his wife never remarried. She was sure he was alive.
Ah.
And he plays an important part because he can't forget holding Joey, an 18-year-old kid who was shot. And he just can't get over the trauma of it. And he can't, after being home a few years, he leaves her a note and says, "I'm so sorry, but I can't," and leaves his wife and child.
You do a thing also at the end of this book where you go through some of your different novels and you say, well, this is where I was when I thought of this, and this is how I thought of this character. And you're actually describing kind of everyday kind of things that happen to all of us. It's just when you see these everyday things, you see suspense and murder.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, that it's always suppose, what if, and why. And you can, you know, I go on the Erie if I'm in a train to hear what people, you know, I'm sitting like this.
Okay.
Or at a table at a luncheon. But it may be something I've read in the newspaper. A number of my books have come straight from an article. There's always an idea. There's always a new book.
Well, which is my last question there. With everything, all these ideas in your head and everything going, does the word retirement even enter into any kind of conversation?
No.
No.
I mean, if I thought I couldn't write a good book, I would not put out for the sake of putting it out. But if I think I can tell a good story, I have said that when my day comes, just put a writing pad and a glass of wine and some pens in the casket with me.
And you're good.
And I'll good.
You're good. Well, here's hoping on behalf of your so many, many fans that day is a long, long way away.
From your lips to God's ear.
Absolutely. Mary Higgins Clark, thank you for the conversation.
A pleasure.
A delight to have you here.